Hello, this is Aaron Mean of SG Gaming Info, and welcome to my video review of Trion Worlds Defiance 2050. Trion Worlds Defiance 2050 is a free-to-play, third-person shooter MMO that also wants to be a single-player game. And as you might imagine, these two genres are very difficult to merge together, and unfortunately, Defiance 2050 doesn't pull it off. In an attempt to make a great story, the game sacrifices many standard MMO features such as player trading. But with that said, Defiance 2050 does offer some spectacular large-scale open world events. So, first and foremost, what is the difference between the original Defiance MMO and Defiance 2050? Well, at first glance, there isn't a whole lot. The story and the world is exactly the same, but if you look closely you will see updated textures and, according to Trion Worlds, improved performance. A claim that can be shot down when you see your first enemy teleport around the map. Now, what can you expect from Defiance 2050? The game contains 3 playable races: Human, Arathian and Castian. These 3 races can be any one of 5 classes: Assault, Assassin, Guardian, Combat Medic and Demolitionist. Each class has a max level of 25 and your character has a max total level of 50. This means you can play at least 2 max level classes on one character. All the classes use ranged weapons, multiple shield types and grenades. The weapon variety is straightforward, with players able to use pistols, assault rifles, submachine guns, light machine guns, shotguns, sniper rifles, detonators and rocket launchers. All of these weapon types can be modified with special mod drops, such as a stock for an assault rifle. Since Defiance 2050 is a third-person shooter, how is the combat? Frankly, combat is for the most part easy, with the only difficult part being fighting enemies that are 500 plus power levels ahead of you. While combat is relatively easy, the enemies are very bullet spongy, with some non-elite enemies requiring an entire clip to bring down. Unless you happen to have a bolt-action sniper rifle, then you can take out an enemy in 1 or 2 headshots. Now let's talk about the world of Defiance 2050. The game takes place in an area known as Paradise, just north of San Francisco. The area is split into 5 zones: Mount Tam, Madeira, Marine, Solisto, and San Francisco. While the game has multiple zones, there is very little variety in terms of topography, with the exception of San Francisco. As you go through the zones, you will come across green hill after green hill with alien plant life sprinkled in. Sure, it looks interesting the first time, but after a few hours it all becomes an uninteresting blur. As I stated earlier, Defiance 2050 has a single player story. The main story mission has you work with Karl von Bock in an attempt to help him find some Arc-Tech, powerful technology that was stolen after the Stratocarrier you were travelling on crashed in Paradise. To find the lost Arc-Tech, you have to work with various powerful residents of Paradise, from a skeevy alien who owns a large portion of the area, to Cooper, the lawgiver and one of the defiant few. The story, while focusing on the missing Arc-Tech, has you learn about the various enemy factions in the area and what happened to the world. The story also has you interact with Nolan and Arissa, 2 of the main characters from the Defiance TV show. They don't do much, but it shows what their lives were like before the TV show. In terms of enemies, there are 7 enemy factions: Raiders, 99ers, Mutants, Hellbugs, EMC, Dark Matter, and the Wolves. In terms of variety, the majority are human enemies, but I found that despite which faction you are fighting, they all act the same. Okay, let's talk about some of the MMO-styled features of the game. The game has 7 4-man instances that consist of story and tier varieties. These instances do offer a decent challenge, especially for those who have recently reached max level. I mean, in my first tier 1 instance, I died several times. There is also 4 8v8 PvP maps for those who like to test their skills against other players. If instance combat isn't your thing, the game offers large-scale open-world events called Arcfalls. Arcfalls are events centered on a piece of arc tech that has crash-landed on Earth, and fighting off enemies who wish to take it. The Arcfalls come in multiple varieties, with small Arcfalls seeing you fight waves of enemies until the arc explodes, to large-scale Arcfalls that see you visit multiple sites that end in fighting a large and incredibly powerful boss monster with other players. These large-scale Arcfalls are incredibly enjoyable and offer the best rewards, as they drop arc chests, which can only be opened by an arc key. Speaking of arc keys, this item is gained from select missions, max level contract missions, and with real money from the in-game store. This means if you want to do multiple Arcfalls or instances for loot, you may need to spend some money on the game. The cost of an arc key is 120 bits, which is a little over €1. But unfortunately, the lowest number of bits you can buy is 500 bits for $4.99. Looking further in depth into the store, it offers various boosts, visual only outfits, additional storage space, vehicles, weapon mods, enhancements, and currency. Now, the last 3 I mentioned could be considered to have pay to win elements, as enhancements give you additional salvage to upgrade your weapons, mods allow you to improve your weapons, and currency allows you to buy additional mod slots for your weapons. The term pay to win can vary from person to person, so I'll leave it up to you to decide whether the Defiance 2050 store goes too far. Now, let's look at Defiance 2050's issues. The game suffers from terrible lag, which causes enemies to rubber band around the map, and even make their grenades and rockets invisible until they hit you. The latency issue has slowly been getting better, but at peak times it is noticeable. Another issue is the game's performance. My PC is more than capable of running the game at max settings, but when played on max, the game would randomly stutter and even freeze for several seconds. At one point when typing a 6-word post into chat, the game froze a total of 3 times. Thankfully, the freezing can be fixed by turning off shadows. In terms of video and audio, the game looks rather run down, and while this suits the tone of the game, it doesn't make it very visually appealing. In terms of audio, I did notice that on occasions, the music would play over voice-acted scenes. So, in conclusion, while Defiance 2050 offers spectacular open-world events, everything else feels lacking, as the game tries and fails to balance the single-player experience with that of an MMO. With that all said, I give Defiance 2050 a score of 5 out of 10, with the game's pros being open world events, and the cons being no trading, latency issues, and a lack of variety. Thank you for watching. Please like, favorite, and subscribe. For more gaming information, please visit sggaminginfo.com, and don't forget to like our Facebook page at facebook.com/sggaminginfo, and follow us on Twitter at sggaminginfo.